Small tube amps versus big ones. Does it sound better? And when is it appropriate? A lot of guitarists struggle with selecting the right amplifier with the right wattage to suit all their needs. In this video, we'll go over amp wattages and the applications that make the 25 watt amp the perfect size for you. So hang on till the end of the video and we'll actually compare a 50 watt amp versus a 25 watt amp to see if it's twice as loud. The results may surprise you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a few small combo amps that have a little bit slightly different vibe on each of them, and I'll kind of go through in general what 25 watt amps do, what they can't do, and which one might be the best application for you depending on your needs. Let's start first with the MESA Boogie Fillmore 25. Now if you take a look at this amp, it's a 25 watt amp. It's a 6v6 power section, okay? So that's going to be real common in smaller amplifiers. It's known for natural compression, very vintage sounding. So at about 25 watts, this is going to be great for, bedroom, practice, smaller gigs. If you're going to do a bigger gig or a medium-sized gig, you're probably going to want to be mic'd up with this. It's going to simulate a vintage black panel amplifier. So you're going to get the slightly scooped mids. You're going to get reverb per channel. 2 channels here. Usually stuff like this that you'll see more in old school type of design is going to be a single channel, but there's a little bit more flexibility here. You've got your preamp gain, treble, you got mid, bass, presence, and master, and then your reverb controls are tucked behind the amp. This amp features a 12-inch C90 black shadow speaker. So again, 2 identical channels, 3 voicings for each, a little bit of clean, some dirt, and then a higher gain. I would say suitable for anything from blues, rock, country, R&B, soul, funk, and it's also a pretty cool pedal platform amp. So let's check this out real quick. Here's my clean tone. Really clean there. So, at home, that might be a little loud for you, so you can kind of just grab the volume down here. It's nice to have a master volume, even down to here. Now watch what happens when I kind of crank up the master to where it was. And now we'll introduce some preamp gain. So now I'm going to go up to about like 2 o'clock, maybe 1:30 here. Go to the bridge pickup. Notice the breakup there. Now if this did not have a preamp gain or a pre-gain, we'll say, and a master volume circuit, you would really have to crank this amp up to get that breakup. So it's nice to have that at lower volume. So we can go higher with the preamp gain and turn the master down. And now you've got that breakup at lower volumes, so it's, again, real flexible for home use. You're hearing the natural compression. Let me give you a little bit more master here, just to kind of hear what's going on. That volume right there, I would say, is good for a medium-sized room. If you're playing with a drummer, again, that's going to be something that you want to have mic'd up just so you could get over the mix. Now, let's listen to some of the other tones on the amp because, like I said, the beauty of something like this with the Boogie stuff is you're going to have the channel switching. Usually, its vintage predecessor of a single channel 6v6 amplifier is only going to have that one tone. You're going to have to crank it. That's not always something that you can do. So now let's move to the second channel and we can hear some overdriven tones, okay? Notice what's happening here. We're not really using that volume trick with the master. We're already in a voiced gain stage that's already voiced for breakup. So now that we're already at this point, applying more preamp distortion. Again, if we're at home, luckily that we have a master volume, we can keep that super low. And now the neighbors don't hate you anymore. But again, I can just control according to my room. So you've got the choice now from clean to break up to a higher gain. And again, you know, it's a great pedal platform amp. You can keep the clean channel on and then just run your pedals as according. With the master volume section, you really get that control. So here's your black panel, your classic California sound here. 2 channels, flexibility, reverb controls on the back. It's a great all-around amp for these smaller applications. Let's hear a little bit more. So some other things to consider about your amplifier choice for wattage is the application. When we talk about application, playing. Are you playing live? Is it rehearsal? The size of the room is going to be a big factor in this. The bigger the room, it's going to take you more power to get to the other side of the room, depending on how the reverberation is or the acoustics are. How many pieces are in the band? As soon as you play guitar with another guitarist, you're now fighting between the same frequencies, mid-range wise. As soon as you play with a bass player, now your low frequencies are a challenge. Or if you're playing with a keyboardist, you live in the same realm. Your bigger tones at home when you're by yourself with a lot of bottom end may sound great to you, but you'll find that when you get into a mix with a band, that you'll have to lean those things out to really stick through and define your place. Some of the other things are, how loud is your drummer? The louder the drummer, the bigger power section you're gonna need, especially if you're not being mic'd. If you are being mic'd, you've got some flexibility here. So right next to me here, I've got the MESA Boogie California Tweed 220 amplifier. This is a Tweed style amplifier. Now, if you have ever played or are familiar with an old school Tweed amplifier, you'll notice that it's only got 2 modes. It's got super quiet, and then when you barely touch the volume knob, it goes all the way up, right? And what you want out of those Tweed amps is the crunch and the breakup. That's the classic sounds that you've been hearing on those recordings. So the cool thing about this MESA one is I've got that preamp gain on tap here and a master volume circuit, so I can really control the volumes again. So with this amplifier, you can actually control that. Let me show you what it sounds like right now, just with a little bit of breakup. So again, all I have to do here is increase my preamp gain. Now trying to get a real Tweed amp to do that, you're gonna really have to get it up there. So now what I can do is I can keep the gain going here. Now that's pretty good on the volume here, okay? This again is gonna be around that 20 watts. So again, good for the small gig applications, medium-sized gigs or anything bigger, you're gonna need to be mic'd up. At home, you can always just run the master lower here. Now there's a lot to be said about the preamp distortion and then the actual push that you get from the power section of the tubes, right? The cool thing about this amp is we've got the multi-watt technology, so we can just bring the threshold down. I can go to 10 watts now, and now I can open up my power section, getting some of that natural push from those 6v6s. Now watch what happens when I go back to 20 watts. You really noticed that the amplifier had a little bit more low end and a little bit more push. As I bring the wattage down, It gets a little softer in the feel, it gets a little less prominent in the mids. Now, a lot of you might be saying, that's still gonna be too loud for me at home. That's fine, this amp can go down to 1 watt. Now this allows me to crank the power tube section. And you can really feel that in the lower mids kick in. And you know, again, I can turn the gain up because we have this preamp distortion. Even at low volumes. So a super flexible version of a Tweed amplifier, especially if you're trying to work with those different wattages, depending on if you're at home or at a rehearsal, featuring gain, treble, mid, bass, presence, and master volume. You've got reverb control on this as well, which a lot of old school Tweeds do not have, so it's nice to have that. You can adjust it. This amp features a 12-inch Jensen Blackbird speaker. These models are gonna be something that you can easily walk around with. This also comes in a 110 combo. This is the 12 here. The 10 is gonna be a little tighter in the low end, and the 12 is gonna open up the mids a little bit more and scoop it slightly. A great version of a Tweed amp, a really good application with this multi-watt setting here that'll really give you the most flexibility out of the power section. Let's hear a little bit more of this amplifier. I'll go ahead and play some clean tones and then we'll get it into the breakup zone. So speaking about music styles, I wanted to talk about metal and harder rock. This is the MESA Boogie Badlander 25. It's a rectifier amplifier. It's a EL84 power section, 25 watts. The cool thing about this is we can get some of those lower high gain tones or even the heavy high gain tones at lower volumes because of that power section. On the front, you'll notice 2 channels. They're also identical channels here, and you've got a clean, crunch, and crush mode. Crush is gonna be a little bit favored to anyone that's doing the lower tuning. It's gonna be leaner on the bass, a little bit more prominent in the mids. I like to think of it as a little bit more British-inspired rectifier. And then you've also got a 25 watt setting, and you can flip it down to a 10 watt setting. On the back, you'll also have the cab clone IR out, which lets you do direct recording with the amp not even being run through a speaker. This amp features a 12-inch Celestion Creamback speaker. So I think this is a really good tool for those of you out there that are wanting to do those heavier styles, still keep the volume down. This also comes in a 50 watt version and a 100 watt version. Of course, you can also get this as a head and then pair it up with like a 212 if you want a little bit more low end. Okay, so let's start with the high gain first, and I'll go ahead and run the master volume for us. Okay, so here we go. And now let's listen at a really low volume. I mean, that's real suitable for home use. I'm still getting my overdrive. Let's turn the volume back up and then I'll run through the 25 watts and 10 watt mode. 10 watts. So again, what's nice about bringing the power section down is I can push that power section by getting more volume now. Now let's move over to the clean channel. So what's real cool here is I can bring the gain up for a little bit of bite. And I can keep my master low. So now I can kind of get that more, you know, pushed clean sound as opposed to the metal stuff if I want. And then I can bring up my wattage. Hearing more of that bottom end come through, a little bit more master. Lean out the bass a little bit. So as you can see, pretty flexible. We can get cleans, we can get, you know, some natural breakup, and we can get that high gain. I think this is a great small package amp for those of you that need to cover those styles ranging from clean stuff to the higher gain stuff. Let's hear a little bit more. So last but not least, home use. That's a big factor in all of our usage of a tube amplifier. When you're at home, it's all about the room, the space, the placement. Where are you putting the amplifier? Is it hitting the windows? Is it hitting a neighbor's side? Baffling's also another great move that you can use if you're recording and you've got to crank your amp up. The closet is also a good place to store your amp and get it cranked up in there. In this particular situation, I've got our Swiss Army knife here. This is the Mark 5 25. This is Mesa Boogie's most flexible little amplifier. The Mark series amplifiers are like the Swiss Army knives of tone. You can get a ton of different sounds out of these amps to begin with. Just looking at it right now, you can see that there's two channels. It's a 25 watt amp, EL84s. The first channel is going to be a clean mode, a fat mode for a little bit more low end and mid-range, especially if you're using single coils, that's helpful. And then a crunch mode, which kind of gives you like that British crunch type of inspiration. Second channel is all the high gain stuff. The Mark IIc+, which is that liquid smooth gain. The Mark IV, which is a little bit more aggressive, great for the metal stuff. And then the extreme mode that really bumps things up in the overall volume and low end of the amplifier. You can get real surgical here with the preamp section and all the EQ. You've got gain, treble, mid-range, bass, presence, and master. And then the 5-band graphic is post. That means it's after the preamp section for a little bit more mastering of your sound or even fine tuning. This amp features a 10-inch Celestion creamback speaker. Again, here you can go either 25 watts or you can knock it down to 10 per channel. On the back is going to be that cab clone built in, so you can pick a open back or closed back. And you're going to get that DI recording with the cabinet sim. And you've also got headphones on this. That's another huge one for all the home use out there. It's great for a bunch of studio tones, and if you're just trying to practice late at night, the headphone thing is super important. Let's check it out. Let's give it a quick spin. Okay, so right now it's on the clean channel in the fat mode for a little bit more low end and mid-range. So now if I go back to just a regular clean mode, you're gonna hear that low end shave off. Really nice. We've got that spring reverb there, tube driven as well, and you can independently control that per channel. Now, when I move over to crunch mode, you're gonna hear a little bit more of that British inspired grit there. I'm gonna turn up my gain, lower my volume a little bit. So just in the first channel of the amp, you've got 3 different tones. Now let's move on to the high gain stuff. I'm on the Mark II C Plus mode, and I'm engaging that 5-band graphic EQ. Now, if that's too loud, we can drop it down to 10 watts. And because it's got that master volume, I can, go back to 25 and I can keep the volume low. No loss there in the gain. I've still got that stuff at lower volume. Let's go to the Mark IV setting here. Super cool. And then when I go to extreme, the volume's gonna jump up here, but I'm gonna just turn it down there. Kind of opens it up a little bit more. And that 10-inch speaker in there, it's a cream back. It just really holds all that together. A really small, compact, easy to grab and go. You can add an extension cabinet to this, or it also comes in a head version. You can also step up to the 35. You can also step up to the new Mark 7, depending on what your needs are for that power section. Okay, here's that bonus section of the video. We're gonna listen to a Fillmore 25 versus a Fillmore 50. I've got the decibel meter app here on my phone so we can measure. Now, it's pretty close. I know this one's a little lower than that, but it is the same speaker, and the amp is voiced the same. Tubes are a little different here. We've got 6L6s here, and we've got 6V6s here. I've got both amps all the way up on the master volume, so we can get some sort of a decent idea here of how much louder one amp is from the other. Let's do it. Okay, I'll start with the Fillmore 25. Now over to the Fillmore 50. Now I'll play the amps back to back. I'll start with the Fillmore 25 and I'll kind of nod to the direction of the amp I'm playing. So we'll start with Fillmore 25 again. So as you can see, there isn't that much difference in the loudness between 25 watts and 50 watts. As a matter of fact, according to the meter, it's about 4 decibels, 3, 4, give or take. Now, if you wanted to be twice as loud as 25 watts, you would actually have to be 10 times as loud. So you'd have to have much more power for that. So in the end, what we noticed here, when I'm playing here, I don't know if you can hear it at home, there's a little bit more of a low-end presence, there's a little bit more of a mid-focus, and things that happen on the high end with more wattage versus 25. The 25 tends to sag a little bit and compress naturally. So you can't go wrong either way. It's really about the application here. Now stay tuned for more videos as we're gonna go over how to hook up 2 amps in stereo and also getting to hear all of the MESA Boogie smaller combos against their bigger versions. Thanks for watching.